So Ben Shapiro, Mr. Fake Genius, Fake Intellectual, and what I like to nickname him as Kermit the Frog, put out a video criticizing Bernie Sanders' climate change deal. It's the $16.3 trillion Bernie-style Green New Deal. Or a better way to describe it, or what I hope how he should describe it, is a green infrastructure New Deal. Because essentially what it does. What it does is, A, further research and study of green science, train new contractors, new researchers for green energy, obviously creates about 20 million unionized laborers and contractors, and puts a majority of that money into paying the workers and putting in materials for improving our infrastructure. Obviously that's eco-friendly and used with green energy products. Now, he put out a video, Ben Shapiro did, of criticizing it with the title, "This is why Bernie is wrong on climate change." Oh really? Is he wrong about climate change? Well, let's see the great detail he breaks down on the climate change, on Bernie's plan on battling climate change. I'm going to play the video. I'm pretty much just kind of play the audio. I'll play like about 3 minutes of it. It's about 5 minutes long. Yeah. So, let's listen to it a little bit.
No, Bernie Sanders has now promoted a $16.3 trillion climate plan on Thursday. The Sanders proposal envisions a significant expansion of the government's role in the economy. No. Bernie Sanders, a socialist? No. He would offer billions in subsidies to replace gas-guzzling vehicles with electric ones by 2030. A new public system of clean electricity generation that could sideline private utilities. And an infrastructure program that would remake much of the economy and employ an estimated 20 million more Americans. This is one of the beautiful things. This is one of the beautiful things about being a Democrat. You can just say stuff like, I'm going to spend $1 gajillion and it will create 20 gajillion jobs. People are like, how? It just will, man. Remember when Barack Obama was talking about shovel-ready jobs that didn't materialize, and then he was talking about green jobs that didn't materialize? And now Bernie Sanders is doing the same thing, and the media's like, ah! The sheer scale of the effort, which The Independent from Vermont compares to FDR's 1940s mobilization to fight World War II, was central to his message in rolling out the plan. Right? It's a feature, not a bug, that it's going to destroy the American economy and force us to spend trillions. Because after all, we can measure your sympathy in dollars, not your own dollars, and the number of dollars that you wish to take out of somebody else's pocket. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, this does result in a great irony, which is that when Bernie Sanders is called on it, he's got nothing. So listen to these two clips. It's pretty funny. He was at a town hall event yesterday, and he's talking about how we have to transition away from fossil fuels, which, if you are worried about climate change, then you do want a transition away from fossil fuels over the course of time. There is no way to do it right now. The technology is simply not sophisticated enough. There are certain things that you can do. Like we should explore geoengineering, building more infrastructure to prevent against rising sea levels, right? Building seawalls. There are certain things you can do for mitigation. There are certain things you can do to heighten adaptation, and making it easier for people to move from particular low-lying areas as sea levels rise, for example. And then there is stuff that you can do to actually mitigate climate change itself. Some of that involves shooting sulfur into the air. That's been explored. This is geoengineering. There's also talk about technological innovation. And it's always funny to me when people say we have to subsidize technological innovation. Okay, well, you know who, the person who wins the race to create an alternative energy source that is even nearly as efficient as carbon emissions, you know what their reward is? All the monies. All of them. If you are the person who discovers nuclear fusion, right, that does not require the heat of the sun, if you are the person who discovers that and makes it cost-effective on a small scale, then you are going to be the wealthiest person in the history of humanity. So that's a pretty good incentive. Nonetheless, Bernie Sanders says we have to transition now. Now we have no choice, right at this very instant. It is no secret.
Okay. So I played 2 minutes and about 50 seconds of it. Now he was gonna show a Bernie clip of him it was like a town hall. He was responding to a question. Now the guy, he asked a very hacky question of, if you want to practice what you preach and you gotta go to events, are you gonna use, you know, like a green energy system or walk to wherever? Bernie's answer was very cut and dry. He says, I'm not gonna walk to California. Yeah. The main problem of that is there is no eco-friendly or green energy focused commercial plane available. So that's a very hacky point. But that's beside the point. So to respond to the bullshit Ben Shapiro just spewed, this isn't substantive, but just a word of advice. Ben Shapiro, don't ever make a Bernie impression. Don't ever do a Bernie impression ever again. That was cringy as hell. Don't ever do a Bernie impression. Now, let's get to some of the points that he made. So, he did the classic old conservative trick of socialist, you know. And socialist or socialism, it's an umbrella term. There's social democracy, there's democratic socialism, there's Marxism, communism, and then there's like flavors of those with like Leninism or Maoism and so on and so forth. So when he says socialists, I just take it as the scary word. You know, it's like when Pat Robertson back in the day said, scary liberal, scary liberal, scary liberal. Okay, since you said it, say it so much and so broadly and so vapidly, it removes all meaning of the word. Now, Bernie Sanders describes himself as a democratic socialist, but how he describes it, it's like a garden variety of social democracy. Even some of the Scandinavian models, they nationalize some of their energy sources. Bernie is not in favor of nationalizing out oil. I'm in favor of nationalizing out oil, but he isn't. So he's not that. He's about as socialist as North Korea is a democratic republic. So let's get that bullshit out of the way. Now, he made the point of Obama creating shovel-ready jobs, and how is Bernie any different from Obama? A couple things. One, Obama was not staunch in his beliefs and his policies. Two, Obama got blocked by a Republican Senate. I mean, you're Mr. Republican neocon. I mean, how else? You should know that. Mr. Intellectual. How he's just getting blowharded by his fans of being an intellectual. So, there's that. Also, he touched on mitigation, of how to mitigate it. How to mitigate effects of climate change. Why are you opposed to something that does that? Not only mitigates it, but solves it. I mean, you're saying, no, I'm against you doing it, but I'm in favor of it, but I hate you doing it. It's like when the Democrats hated Trump for creating a meeting with Kim Jong-un. Like, they wanted to to reduce the tensions of North Korea, but I don't like when Trump does it. What else do you want, Ben? What else do you want? You know, and he shows like, okay, let's, you know, build up seawalls and things like that. That's what Bernie's plan does. Why are you opposed to something that you're apparently in favor of? So, and then later in the video he touched on sympathy dollars. That's what he called it, of, you know, oh, well, if, you know, it may cost a lot now, but it's going to cost a lot in the future. And Ben's like, well, no. And my response to that is yes. And let me dive into just some of the numbers here. Now, the upfront ticket price for the next 10 years is $16.3 trillion. Now, it's estimated that you're going to receive around $2.8 trillion in just federal income tax, not including state or local income taxes. Just on the federal level, about $2.8 trillion of income tax back. That automatically cuts down the ticket price by to $13.8 trillion over 10 years. Now let's get into just 5 factors I put into heat-related deaths, coastal property losses, lost wages, deaths from bad air quality, and infrastructure damages, like from bad weather and things like hurricanes and things like that. We're going to save around and wildfires. Sorry, 6 factors. So we're going to save around $230 billion in wildfires. We're going to save that much money because they're going to be less prevalent. It's estimated that we're going to save around $800 billion in heat-related deaths, $260 billion in coastal property losses, $740 billion due to lost wages due to heat waves, because that happens a lot in like retail stores and construction labor jobs, $80 billion from deaths from bad air quality, and $300 billion in infrastructure damages. Just putting those 6 factors in, it drops the actual price of what the taxpayers are going to cost to $11.09 trillion. That's a return of about 30% of how much we put money into something and how much we get back. That never happens in any governmental expenditure. We did not get 30% return on the Iraq War. We did not get 30% return on the Afghan War. We have not gotten 30% return on the Shadow War in Africa. We have not gotten 30% return on the 7 countries we're bombing. We have not gotten 30% return on the oil subsidies we constantly give them. We didn't even get 30% return on the stimulus package that Obama passed. We got around 12 to 14%. So 30% return on that large of a ticket price, that's a steal. That's something any fucking fiscal conservative should be for. Mr. Fiscally Responsible, you know, oh, we gotta worry about the deficit. Well, if you put money into something and you get 30% of it back immediately, let alone, this is not even including how much, this is not including of the new infrastructure going to be built that's going to generate all the landscaping taxes, because, you know, you're going to need, you know, the paperwork to build for it, all the tax revenues that's going to be pumped straight into the state and local governments. This is just the 6 risk factor savings and the federal income tax, and then obviously the upfront ticket price. That's 30% return. If you include all the other things I listed, it's probably going to be close to upwards of about 45 to 50%. You know, and then, you know, it's just something that should be so obvious, I should not have to explain this. And then, furthermore, now he goes on, Ben Shapiro goes on in the video explaining how, oh, how are you going to create 20 million jobs? Oh, it just is going to be made. No, that's not how jobs get made. It's called making federal contracts, demanding them to be green energy, built for green energy, like installing solar panels into them, or them to be energized by solar panels or connected to a hydroelectric dam or something like that, as well as fixing our current infrastructure. Our current infrastructure has a rating of D-, and that's just on the latest report that was done like 5 or 6 years ago. It might be an F now, but for right now I'm just going to call it as a D-. Our dams are getting destroyed, our bridges are crumbling, so much of our roads have potholes in them. You know, we should not have to rely on toll roads just to get infrastructure funding. I mean, luckily Washington State is a little bit better, but all the areas in the Deep South, they're getting destroyed. Their infrastructure is crumbling. Upstate New York is not the greatest. So this plan helps it. Not only does it make fiscal sense, and it makes obviously climate sense and also economic success. Right now, we have too many low-paying, non-unionized retail jobs. Our unemployment is low, but it's replaced by Walmart jobs and people to work at Lowe's and Home Depot and Safeway. No, we need high-paying union jobs and help build our country back up to the level that it should be. And you made the point of, oh, it's just going to be like, have you never heard of the New Deal? It's almost exactly how Bernie Sanders constructed it. And the New Deal was a fantastic success. It built up New York to now become the economic forefront of the East Coast, or the east side of the country. It made Texas from being a huge swath of farmland to now Houston and Dallas now being epicenters of commerce. So Ben, don't be against something that you're for simply because it has a socialist to do it. We need to rebuild our country for and build up the green energy, you know, rebuild a crumbling infrastructure, and create an actual country where people are not going to have to worry about getting, you know, swallowed up by a pothole in a road. You know, people are working at jobs that they are overqualified and underutilized. This fixes that. This Green New Deal fixes that. Bernie's plan fixes that. So if you're against this, then you cannot call yourself, you cannot say you want to fix America. I'm sorry, but you can't.